So I'm going to do another talk on a game series or franchise, which I also really enjoyed. Not too many games for this franchise or series, but it's a good one. This is the Donkey Kong series, Donkey Kong Country, as well as Donkey Kong 64, as well as Donkey Kong, is it Tropical Freeze? I think that's its name. And I think those are the only games that I've played within this franchise, but it's also very good. So yeah, it's a good series of games, but I enjoy them. I played the original Donkey Kong on the arcade when Donkey Kong was a villain, or when Cranky Kong was a villain in that game. Donkey Kong's grandfather. Played Donkey Kong Jr., which is another really good game, arcade game, which I also played, where Mario's the villain and he captures Donkey Kong Jr.'s father, so Cranky Kong, and then Donkey Kong Jr. would be the modern Donkey Kong's father. So you play as Donkey Kong's father in that game, and Donkey Kong Jr. is not in a lot of games. He's only in Donkey Kong Jr. He is in Donkey Kong 94, which I also talked about, and that's also a good game. And he plays the enemy in that one, along with his father, Cranky Kong. Um, he is in Mario Kart. He is also in Mario Tennis on the N64, but those are really the only other games that I found him in. And he's in his adult form in the latter two that I mentioned. So he's a good character. I don't know why he's not in the Donkey Kong Country series. He's not in any of those games. He's not in Tropical Breeze. I don't know why that is, but Donkey Kong is another unique series of games. The Donkey Kong Country series, first created by Rare. Um, and these games are really fun. As Donkey Kong, you go through a 2D side-scrolling action-adventure environment. 16-bit first on the SNES. All the Donkey Kong Country games are 16-bit and on the SNES. But yeah, you play as Donkey Kong in the first one. You can also play as Diddy Kong. In the second one, you can play as Diddy Kong, which is Donkey Kong's nephew, who's a smaller monkey. And then there's all sorts of other um, monkey and ape characters in the games. There's Dixie Kong, who can use her ponytail to do a spin jump and float through the air. There is Kitty Kong, who is a really big child Kong, who is also in the third game. And then there's a bunch of other characters which I'll talk about, but I'll go through the games and then talk about them as I go through the games a bit more. So yeah, the first Donkey Kong Country I've played, it's very good. You play as Donkey Kong, you move through a 2D side-scrolling action-adventure environment. You can roll into enemies. You can pound enemies. You can pound on different boxes to open them. And you can turn into a rhinoceros if you open the appropriate box and then rush through the level without having to worry about being hit because it'll just destroy every enemy in your path. You can play as a dolphin. Not a dolphin. Swordfish. A swordfish also if you open the correct box by smashing it. You can also jump on enemies and jump on boxes to smash them. So those are your three main moves. Rolling, jumping, and smashing, which is appropriate to what a gorilla would do. Um, yeah, you can turn into a swordfish too, which you can use to travel underwater. You don't have to worry about holding your breath, and you can hit all underwater enemies and break through underwater walls also and boxes also. But they have barrels in these games too, which are reminiscent of the original arcade game. You can throw these barrels at enemies also, so that's another attack move you can use. You can also jump into different barrels, which will fire you off into different sections of the screen. It may fire you into a different barrel, which will fire you into another barrel, and so on and so forth. There are also other barrels which hold like different items, also like one-up balloons and bananas, which can also give you one-ups. If you find enough of them, you can find the letters D-O-N-K-E. Oh no, not D-O. It's K-O-N-G are the letters you can find in the levels. Also, and they unlock something too. I can't remember what they unlock, but you can do that also. You can go to other different characters, places from the map screen, which is available. Funky Kong Shop, who sells items. And then Cranky Kong, also I think who gives advice throughout the game. And you can also play as Diddy Kong, who is the monkey character who is smaller than Donkey Kong, but he has a red hat and vest, and he does the cartwheel move instead of the roll. I think they're both the same in terms of jumping ability and running speed. Donkey, he just has a different style to him, so he has the cartwheel instead of the pounding move. I don't think he can do the slam move as Donkey Kong does. And was that slam move in the original SNES Donkey Kong Country games? I'm not sure if that was in that or didn't come out to the later ones, but I think it is. But Diddy Kong doesn't have that. But he is a good character to play as. And if you die as Donkey Kong and you have Diddy Kong rescued from a barrel, and that's saved in the upper right hand corner of the screen. If you die as Donkey Kong, you can then play as Diddy Kong, which is another interesting element to it, and then vice versa. Um, so those are great games. Donkey Kong Country 1, Donkey Kong Country 2, Donkey Kong Country 3. I did play the other two also, not as much. I never actually beat the second two. I think I did beat the first one though. And King K. Rool is the giant crocodile villain who's in these games. He was head of these crocodiles who have stolen Donkey Kong's bananas. That's sort of the plot behind them. That's a good series of games too. Dixie Kong is in the second game, and she's the one that can use her ponytail to float through the air with. And then Kiddy Kong and Dixie Kong are in the second game. So you can play as Donkey and Diddy in the first, Diddy and Dixie in the second, and then Dixie and Kiddy in the third ones. And I can't remember what ability. Oh, I can't remember what ability Kiddy Kong has, but I'll look that up now. And Diddy Kong is also famous for his back jetpack, barrel jetpack, which is found in Donkey Kong 64, but I don't know when that was first introduced. I don't think that was in the Donkey Kong Country. I think that was in Donkey Kong 64 where we first got that, but I might be wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments if that is the case. Okay, so Kiddy Kong ability. Great strength, tremendous speed, and water skip. So I guess he's stronger, faster, and he can skip over water. Okay, so that's what makes him unique. Basically, just a big baby gorilla is the best way to describe him. Um, so yeah, all the Donkey Kong games are great. The Donkey Kong Country series is really good. The original Donkey Kong games are great in the arcade. Donkey Kong is also in Super Smash Brothers as a playable character in all the games, so he's good in those too. Um, and let's see, I'm going to move on to the Donkey Kong 64, also created by Rare, who created the Donkey Kong Country games. Just to differentiate for those who don't know, Rare created the Donkey Kong Country games, which star the grandson of the villain in the original arcade games. And then, as mentioned, Donkey Kong Jr. is the father of the modern version of Donkey Kong in the Country and Donkey Kong 64. So Donkey Kong 64, great game. Similar to Mario 64 in terms of being 3D. um, having an open environment, you have to collect not stars but bananas. So it's similar to Mario 64 in that element, but there are also elements in the game that make it unique. For instance, you not just only play as one character, Donkey Kong, you play as 5 different characters. You need to use their different abilities to uh, gain the bananas and then gain access to different levels. So, or to obtain the bananas and then gain access to different levels. So, yeah, so you have 5 different characters. You have Donkey Kong, who is the first character you can play as, and you do have to find the other characters before you can play as them. So you only start off with Donkey Kong initially, but you then find Diddy Kong, and then I believe it's Lanky Kong next, and then Tiny Kong, who is the female Kong in this one, and then the female character you can play as in this one. There are other female Kong characters also. You have Wrinkly Kong, who is Cranky Kong's wife. She's the older Kong, and then she's in some other games. I think she passed away though, so in one of the games, so I think she's dead now. Um, but there is also another character called Candy Kong, who's another female character who is a buxom blonde, similar to Jessica Rabbit body type, and she is Donkey Kong's girlfriend. So I don't want to ignore the female characters in these games either. Oh, there's another character in the Donkey Kong Country games called Swanky Kong. I don't know what he was for. I can't remember what you used Swanky Kong for in those games. I know Funky Kong has a shop. I'm going to check to see what Swanky Kong does. He's sort of like a butler type character with a mustache. Um, I'm going to check here. Swanky Kong is an entrepreneur of the Donkey Kong family who enjoys hosting mini games. Okay, that's what I thought. Mini games. Flashy shoots. Oh, he doesn't have a mustache in this one, in this picture here, but he does, I think, in one of the games. I might be wrong about that, though. It might be from the cartoon that I'm thinking of in there, but there's Swanky Kong also. You can play mini games with him. He hosts those mini games, and then I think you can win prizes like bananas from him, as well as other things, one-up balloons. Um, so I'm trying to think of who other. I think that's all the characters for now, but I'll explain the DK64 and the characters a bit more. So you start off with Donkey Kong. You can then earn Diddy Kong, who I explained before. He's the monkey character, um, and and then you can unlock Lanky Kong, who is an orangutan, and he has super long arms. And then you can use Lanky Kong to unlock. It's one of those characters you can use to unlock Tiny Kong, and then Tiny Kong you use to Tiny Kong's the small female Kong in this series. Oh, as well as Dixie Kong. I did mention Dixie Kong also. She's similar to Dixie Kong as she can use her pigtails to float, but she differs a bit as she has pigtails. And she has a special power too, which I'll explain in a bit, as well as the other Kong characters. So there's Donkey Kong, and then you use him to find Diddy Kong. You use Diddy Kong to find Lanky Kong. You use Lanky Kong, well, not find, but rescue. Lanky Kong to rescue Tiny Kong, as that's part of the plot, as the Kong members of the families were captured by the Kremlings, or Kremlins are the names of the crocodile bones. But yeah, that's that order there. And then you can use Tiny Kong to unlock Chunky Kong, who is even larger than Donkey Kong and similar to Kiddy Kong, but he's an adult. I think he is Kiddy Kong's older brother, from what I remember. So I'll explain all these different characters, what their special abilities are, what their weapons are, what their powers are, if I can remember them. I haven't played this game in a super long time, but I'll try to remember it as best I can. Donkey Kong can be described as a strong character, not quite as strong as Chunky Kong, but still strong. Um, has the same moves from the original, where he can roll, and I think he still has his slam move for the ground. Um, I think his jump is the weakest, so he is the weakest in terms of jumping. But he also has a special ability where he can use his strength to pull rusty levers that can be used to open different parts of certain levels. All of the characters also have different guns that they can use to fire at enemies as well as fire at targets, which, if fired at, can unlock doors. Donkey Kong's weapon is a shotgun. It is a coconut shotgun, which he uses for the purposes I just mentioned. And then Diddy Kong. Diddy Kong has good running speed. Donkey Kong is probably the slowest too, but he's a good, I think, character to use if you're a beginner. Again, you have to use all the characters to access all the different levels, but starting off with Donkey Kong is good because he's slower moving. His jump is not super high, which is easier to control. But he does have the coconut shotgun, which is good. It's not super slow, and it has good power to it. And he does have the ability to pull levers, which can open doors in various levels. Diddy Kong, he has, for his gun, the Peanut Pop guns, which are pistols, essentially, dual pistols. He can use them with another item you can unlock with him called the barrel jetpack. So it's kind of cool. He can fly around with the barrel jetpack on and shoot peanuts out of his gun simultaneously, or guns simultaneously. Again, I might not get all the moves and powers in on this, but I'm just trying to get as much as I can because I played this game way back in 2000, and I think that's the last time I played it. But yeah, Diddy Kong still has his cartwheel move from the Donkey Kong Country series. A bit faster, has high jump height. I think his height for the jump is the highest. And maybe the long, no, maybe not the longest, but he definitely has the highest jump from what I can remember. And Lanky Kong is also a good character. He is the orangutan with his super long arms. Oh yeah, very tired. His gun is a blow dart. Um, it shoots grapes, so it's very long, also like his arms, and he can use it to blow grapes out of. He can also walk on his hands, and he can also gain an ability where he can walk on his hands super rapidly and move super quickly throughout the levels. So he's probably the second slow or third slowest. He's probably in middling in terms of speed and jumping. We're not going to remember, but he can move quickly when he has that handstand power, which you can unlock if you unlock a special barrel. And all these powers that I mentioned, these special powers like Diddy Kong's barrel and Donkey Kong's lever grip, these are all powers you can unlock by jumping into special barrels with the characters' faces on them. And if you want to switch characters, I should mention this. If you want to switch characters, you just find a barrel within the level that has all the characters' faces on them. You just jump into that barrel and then you select your character that you need to use um, from that barrel. And then once you select that character, the character will drop down from the barrel, and then you can use them to play throughout the level. So that's a unique way of being able to select characters. You don't just press start and then go to a screen. You actually do have to find a barrel to change characters, which adds another level of difficulty to the game, which I found good. I didn't end up beating this game, so it's not super difficult, but it does have a good level of difficulty to it. I would say it's a tad more difficult than Mario 64, so if you're looking for that type of difficulty or level of difficulty, that's a good game to look at and play. So yeah, Donkey Kong 64, Lanky Kong, he has the blow dart, great gun. He can walk on his hands, which he can use to, that's used to climb up steep slopes, or diagonal slopes, I guess, which are steep, I suppose. And he can also run super quickly on his hands if you find a special barrel, which activates that power. Um, um, so that's Donkey Kong. He's the orangutan. So you have Donkey Kong, who's a gorilla. You have Diddy Kong, who's a chimp. And then you have Lanky Kong, who's an orangutan. And then you have Tiny Kong, who is the female Kong in the game, or the playable female Kong in the game. She is young, like Diddy Kong. I'm guessing the same age. A bit taller than Diddy Kong, but her special power is if you find a barrel with your face on it, with her face on it, and then jump in it, she can shrink down to ant size and then gain access to secret parts of levels, which you need to access to earn bananas. The bananas, which once again Donkey Kong has had stolen from him by the Kremlins, King K. Rool. So that's her power, and then her gun is a feather crossbow. It's a mini feather crossbow that can be held in one hand, and she shoots. It's weird. I don't know why she doesn't have a fruit for this one, but that's fine. It works. I keep scratching my face. Sorry about that. I don't mean to pick at my nose there, so I'll try to refrain from that. She has a feather crossbow, a mini feather crossbow, which shoots feathers, and excuse me. Special power: she can shrink down to size to access those secret locations, and then her special move, which you don't need a barrel for, like Donkey Kong's roll and Diddy Kong's cartwheel, she can jump and then spin, and like Dixie Kong, instead of a pigtail, she uses her ponytails to float through the air and then land on platforms. So it's just a special float jump, similar to Dixie Kong's float jump, where she uses her hair to do that. And then finally, you have Chunky Kong, who is very tall, very large, muscular gorilla, like Donkey Kong. He has a special power where if you find his barrel with his face or visage on it, he will grow in size. I think it's probably 10 times his size, or he grows like super large, and you can use that to. Well, I don't know if it's actually that he can grow to that size in the last level, but I think if you just get that barrel at first, I think it's like twice his size or so. So it's not that big in most of the levels, only in the last one. But he still can grow super large, and then you can use that. I think that's his power, if I can remember that correctly. Yeah, you can use that to sort of like barrel through levels and just like You're essentially invincible. You just smash through enemies. Well, not invincible, but more powerful. And okay, so his gun is a pineapple bazooka. So it's apt for him. All the weapons in terms of their size are apt for the character's sizes. Um, Larger for the two gorillas, and then middling for Lanky with his blow dart gun there. And then, oh yeah, for Tiny Kong, she has the tiny one-handed crossbow. And then Diddy Kong, I guess, I don't know, I guess they're both about the same size, Diddy and Tiny, so he also has small weapons too, the two pistols. So Chunky Kong can grow in size if you find his barrel. He has the pineapple bazooka, which fires slowly, but is very powerful. Which really doesn't make any sense when it comes to actual ammunition because you need more firepower and less speed to create a gun that has greater destruction capacity. But his pineapples are larger, so they are easier to fire at the target, so that's one advantage of them. They are slower too, which makes it easier to, well, not necessarily easier, but I don't know. There's advantages and disadvantages to that. Larger weaponry that travels at a slower pace out of the barrel. Easier to hit targets with. So aiming is easier because you don't have to worry because the pineapple is so darn big. But they do travel slowly. So that's fine for a video game if you want to have that balance for the weapons. But I mean, obviously, we all know that about guns and all that, hopefully. Uh, Okay, so he has the pineapple bazooka, the ability to grow super large and barrel through enemies and sort of just wipe any enemy that's within his path out of his way. And I'm trying to think of what else he has for like a special move. Oh, so he can punch. He has like a super punch he can use. And this can be used not only to punch enemies, but also can be used to break down doors that other characters cannot break down. So he can use that punch to his advantage also. So that's Donkey Kong 64. That's a really good game. I haven't played. There's another Donkey Kong game where you play music on a barrel. I think that's called Donkey Konga. I think I played that once at a friend's house when I was on my high school's cross country team. I think we played that once either before or after one of the meets. That seemed like a good game. You basically just have to keep rhythm with these special barrels that are also drums, which you use to hit and match the rhythm that appears on the screen. So a series of music notes will appear on the screen, similar to like Dance Dance Revolution, where these notes will appear and then you have to match your speed and rhythm exactly to the notes that appear. So that was a cool game too. Didn't play that a lot. I think I only played that once, but that's another good game of the Donkey Kong series. And the last one I played, and the most recent one I played, is Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. I don't know if country's in the name, so I have to double check that, but it definitely is Tropical Freeze. Okay, Donkey Kong Country is in the name. So Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. So apologies for that. I correct myself there. So Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, kind of like a revamp of the Donkey Kong Country games, which is really cool to see and play. There's some new elements to it. You can play as four characters now. You can play as Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, Trixie Kong, not Trixie. Is it Trixie Kong? Not Tiny Kong, but Dixie Kong, not Trixie. Dixie Kong. So Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, Dixie Kong, and Cranky Kong each have their own special moves. So it's kind of cool to see Cranky Kong as a playable character. His special move is that he has his cane, and he can use his cane to pounce on enemies. as well as surfaces that the other characters can't bounce on, mostly spikes, so that's mostly what you use the cane for. Diddy Kong has his jetpack barrel, which you can use to fly through levels and past obstacles and spikes that you don't want to hit, so you can just fly over those. And then Dixie Kong has her ponytail jump, or she can float. So I think it's a bit different than Diddy Kong's barrel, because from what I remember from the game, Diddy Kong's barrel is sort of more of an arc, whereas I think her jump allows you to jump higher. So it's not like in the other game she's in, where she uses it to float past different parts of the level, like Diddy Kong does in this. I think she uses it to hop up higher, so she can hop up to surfaces that the other characters can't reach, just by tapping. I don't know what the button is. I think it's A twice, where you can do that. And then Donkey Kong finally. I'm trying to remember what his special move is. I don't know if he has a special move, so to speak. I think you just play as Donkey Kong, and he can roll and jump. And oh, his smash move is special, but I'm trying to think of what his special move is in that game. Kong Pao is a move used by Donkey Kong and another Kong in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze that turns all on-screen enemies. Okay, so that's not his power. That's another element of the game though that I'll discuss. Kong Pao. I'm reading this from Mario Wiki, but this is Kong Pao, a move used by Donkey Kong and the other Kongs in Donkey Kong Country. I'm paraphrasing here, but um, Tropical Freeze and its Nintendo Switch port that turns all on-screen enemies into a specific item. So you can use that to destroy all your enemies and then turn them into items. I think you just gain that by playing through the level for a certain amount of time, and after a certain amount of time that activates. And then if you so choose, you can use that Kong Pao to destroy all the enemies and then gain the items that they turn into or transform into. Okay, so that's that. But I'm wondering what is, because they all have special jump moves, so maybe I have to put in jump move for this. I will try my best for that, to find that. He may not have a special jump move. Donkey Kong just might not have that in that game. Again, if you want to comment on that, definitely let me know. But you can still cartwheel as Diddy, and you can still roll as Donkey Kong. You can smash as Donkey Kong also. That might be why he doesn't have a special jump move, is because he can smash through the ground. He can smash boxes. I think all of them can throw barrels. There are still barrels in the game, like in all the other Donkey Kong Country games, where you can jump into them and they shoot you into other barrels, or throughout different parts of the screen. And there are 3D elements to it where you are in the barrel and you take Donkey Kong's point of view, or whoever character you're playing, and it feels like you're flying out of the barrel through the level. So it shoots you out of the barrel, and it's a first-person point of view, so it actually feels like you're being shot out of the barrel, which differs a bit from the other games. So yeah, it differs a bit from the Donkey Kong Country games. More elements of the game are included, including the Kong Pao, the different character abilities, the addition of Cranky Kong as a playable character. You have the first-person view of the barrel shots. The bosses are good, challenging. I don't think I ever actually beat the game because it is difficult, but the bosses are good. You can jump on enemies, roll into enemies, cartwheel enemies. I don't quote me on this. I think Dixie can use her pigtails to hit enemies with also, and you can use Cranky Kong's cane to destroy enemies also, as well as surfaces and boxes and things like that. I think the Rhino element is also in the game, and Oh, you know what? In the other Donkey Kong Country games, you can turn into an ostrich also, which can just move really quickly through the level. I don't think it's invincible, but it can jump, I think, higher than the Rhino can. I don't quote me on that, but that's another element of the Donkey Kong Country games, which I failed to mention. And I'm trying to think of what else is in the game. Donkey Kong's in the game. You can go to his shop and buy items, one-up balloons, bananas, as in the other games. Um, he's the only character I found recently. I don't know if Swanky Kong's in the game or not. I will check on that. Um, I have to check on this. I don't know. I'll have to check. It doesn't look like it, but I don't know. So if you do know that, leave a comment. I can't remember if he's in there or not. I didn't play through the whole game either, so I don't know that one. But it's a great addition to the Donkey Kong Country series. Higher quality graphics due to the Switch, the 128-bit graphics compared to the 16-bit on the SNES. Cranky Kong is a playable character. You have all the different moves that I mentioned. You still have Funky Kong in the shops. You have the same map overworld that you move throughout in all the other games, which I failed to mention. And you do have to obviously unlock the next levels, as in pretty much virtually every video game, or all video games. And it's just really good addition to the series. Adds really good elements to it. Oh, other elements of the original that I failed to mention, cart rides through the mines. So if you go to the cart levels, you could jump into a mine cart and then the cart automatically moves you through the level, and you just have to press jump at the appropriate moments to jump over certain obstacles to make it to the level. And you know, I don't think you have any control over the speed of the cart from what I remember, so it just goes at a constant speed, and then you have to time your jumps appropriately to beat the level or to complete the level. So I'm trying to think of what else is in the game. I think that's about it. That's the last game I played, or the most recent one, rather. It's a great addition to the Donkey Kong Country series, as stated. And I think that's it for now. I really like all the Donkey Kong Country games that I've played. I think there are more out there. Oh, shoot. I should have mentioned this with Mario, but I did play the. I'm blanking on its name, but the game where you can play as Mario's robots, and Donkey Kong is trying to destroy you when you're playing as Mario's mini robots. So I'm trying to remember what the heck that game is called. Mario versus Donkey Kong Mini Land Mayhem for the DS. That's the name. So I did play that too. So I'll include that in this Donkey Kong review, although I should have mentioned it in the Mario video also. But all great games. All the Donkey Kong games I've played are great. Another good Nintendo franchise. That's it for now. Feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of the day.